funny story. So my route to work, I used to live about 10 or 11k from work. So I would cycle because it wasn't that bad. It was much faster than getting a bus. And it used to take me past James's Gate every morning. And I swear I got drunk off the smell of the processing Guinness every morning. So I would be half cut getting to work every day. You're like, how's Sean? How are you? How is getting on, you well?
Welcome to Coffee and Geography, where my guests and I geek out about the world and everything on it, discovering that we are all geographers in some way, shape or form. I am your host, Kit, and my pronouns are they, them or she, her. So settle down with a brew, hit that subscribe or follow button, and enjoy the listen.
This podcast is sponsored by the World Energy and Meteorology Council, or WEMC for short. WEMC is an international organisation focused on weather and climate data to support energy transition, and we also work with educators. WEMC have created Teal, an easy-to-use free visualisation tool that enables you to explore climate variables for the past 70 plus years. Get started at tealtool.earth. Find us at wemcouncil.org and follow us on Twitter at wemcouncil.
Hi everybody. Okay, I confess I've been aiming to get one celebrity per season, right? One person of note worthy of their own Wikipedia entry. It's been a challenge this time around, so I'm going to redefine the term celebrity on my terms to include YouTubers. With that in mind, let me introduce to you Mr. Seán Ferrick. Hi, Seán.
Hi, Kit. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so not a celebrity. I just want to throw that out there by any means. And I think if I ever had a Wikipedia page, it would be a dark, dark place.
Would you be the one who would be like nefariously editing in things or taking out the nefarious entries? Where would you be on that fence?
Oh, I think it would depend on the day. Like, of a Monday, depending on how my mood is like, this man is responsible for... And then the Tuesday is just like, hey, it's Trek Tuesday. Everyone's having fun. Everything's great.
So Seán is just a slight Star Trek addict who is trying day by day to make a world a better place. And even if that means just sharing a kind word here or there. He is a content creator based primarily with TrekCulture, bringing news, reviews, and behind-the-scenes information on Star Trek to the masses. And Seán is also a writer and an avid fan of model collecting, which we can see quite nicely behind you on that shelf. But before you say anything about those models, Seán, we talked about it before we start recording, but please describe to everybody the way you've soundproofed your room.
Oh my God. So I have so many like foam pads on this room that if I was ever to choose to murder somebody, I'm in the perfect room for it. For legal reasons, I will never choose to murder somebody.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
But if I needed to, I have the perfect location for it because I went slightly overboard when it came to soundproofing this room. Do you know what it reminds me of? This, I'm going to go old for a minute. The song 2 by Blur. The music
one of my
video
favorite songs of all time. Yeah.
Right, and he's jumping all around the place and there's carpet everywhere. That's what I feel like when I'm in this room.
Woohoo! Oh, I can just hear that now pumping in my head. Yeah, the way that, because the music video is just so epic. Yeah, so every time the chorus kicks in, it's like just, I don't know how they did it, but whether it's wires or something like that, or just a giant blast of air or something, but they just like bounce off the sides of the walls and everything. And it's still, while they're still playing the guitar and everything, it's just like, and folks, the song is, it's a myth that the song is exactly 2 minutes long. It's actually 2 minutes and 1 second long. So whenever it's been on albums and stuff like that, they accidentally cropped it to 2:01, which should be exactly 2 minutes. That's a fact that no one knows about. So.
I did not know that fact, but that's proper like trivia. Like that is now committed to memory because someone's going to ask me that and I'm going to be like, what's the great thing about this song? It's 2 minutes and 1. Quickly, delete this from the recording so nobody else knows. So we'll always win that round.
Well, this could be me, everybody, because I had the back in the day when I had CDs. If you don't know what they are, you youngsters, please do look them up. Please use your interwebs to look them up. But when I had the Blur, I had it on single and I had it on their album, and it always went to 2:01. And that'd be with me with my OCD. It always went like, no. It's like every time I'd look at that count, it's please flick over at 2. But yeah, they missed a beat there. But I think somebody out there is going to say, no, Kit, you maybe just had a defective CD because mine starts at 2. So anyway, this is such a random thing we just went on to. That's what's great about coffee and geography, is that it is a chat over some coffee. What are you drinking then?
So I am having a very nicely standard instant coffee with far more sugar than I'm going to admit to having here. And I'm having it out of my TARDIS mug because I am, on top of being a Trekkie, I'm also an avid Whovian.
Yes. So is it bigger on the inside? I had to say it.
Sometimes it feels that way, especially when you're trying to drink the coffee so quickly that it stays warm by the end of the coffee. And like, this is roughly a pint. So,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so when you're sitting there, and it's good in the mornings, right? Because by the time you finish your coffee, you could run a marathon when you should be doing housework or something. And yeah, it's not so good in the evenings when I'll just make a quick coffee before bed, and it's about 3 a.m. going, now why am I still awake? I just had a pint of coffee. That would be why.
So you've had you've got a trucker's mug shaped like the TARDIS, which I absolutely love it.
100%, and it even comes with its own little lid.
Oh my goodness me! Oh, sorry, you just gotta look this up, Sean. Get a picture of that stick it on Twitter, and then tag me, and then we'll get. That's just amazing. So
done.
One more trivia for you then, Sean. So the 11th Doctor, who was
Matt Smith,
was an old university buddy of mine.
No way!
Yeah. So Matt Smith, he went to the University of East Anglia with me. So 2001 to 2004. He did creative writing, and I was doing environmental science. So he always, and my dorm, there was me and 2 other environmental scientists, and almost the rest of them were in the creative writing. And they would always have dorm parties, and Matt was always there because he was part of that clique. Mm-hmm. And the one story I always like to tell people is how, because I used to work behind the bar, is how he would like a drink. He was a bit of a lad, old Matt, and how he would come into the bar, let's just say pre-prepared for the night.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, but he was a good lad. I played a couple of games of football with him, but he didn't do too much because he had a terrible injury. And apparently he would have been a very good football player, and perhaps even professionally, if it wasn't for a certain injury. So he decided to turn to acting instead, and he seemed to have done all right with that.
Yeah, I think that's worked out okay. Actually, funny enough, I do remember hearing that story because there's at least one episode of Who where he plays football and he's like, the Doctor suddenly ridiculously good at football. And yes, I remember hearing that story. Now, actually, funny enough, today, as we record this, an awful lot of new images have come out for the new House of the Dragon series. Yes. So we've seen him all done up in costume, and I am quite excited for that series. Yeah, I must say.
Yeah, and Matt, I don't know if you're listening. I mean, I know the last text you sent to me ages and ages ago was not a very pretty one when I told you that Tennant was my favourite Doctor. But all in jest, of course. But if you're listening, Matt, I hope you're doing okay. It's good to see you with all your success, and come on the podcast if you're free. Not that you have time for an old buddy from university, but hey, you never know. You have a Wikipedia entry, Matt. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, so there we go. So we've got our Whovian mug, which I absolutely love, so I'm going to have to look into that myself. But you yourself, you are the second person we have on the podcast, and in a row, actually, who's from the beautiful Emerald Island, because last week I spoke to a wonderful friend of mine, geography teacher, Alistair Hamill, who's on the in Northern Ireland, so north of you, but you're on the southern side, so you're in the Republic of Ireland. You're a Dubliner, I believe, but you've moved south. Is that right, or have I got that the other way around?
No, that's 100% correct. Yep, I was in Dublin for about 30 years of my life, and then last year, so I'm a year living in a place called Wexford now, which is, I like to describe, if you can imagine Ireland as a teddy bear that's sitting down.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I will not be thanked for this, but from Wexford County Council. But if you imagine Ireland as a sitting down teddy bear, we're its bum.
I was going for the belly button of a hummingbird. If the Isle of Man was the hummingbird's beak, right, and the western coast of Ireland was its wings and its tail, right, I was going that Wexford was the hummingbird's belly button if it had one, but you're going for a teddy bear's backside, which is
This is why I think you're going to get hired by Wexford County Council sooner than I'm going to get hired, okay? I think for the Irish Tourism Board, I think you have a future.
Well, hummingbirds don't have belly buttons, so maybe they won't, But I don't know, right? People vote now. Okay, that's going on a Twitter poll. Should we describe Wexford as a teddy bear's backside or a hummingbird's belly button? Neither of which is, their flights are fancy. But geographers, you might recognise the area, of course, is that not too far away from you. And I don't think you might have spent some time there, perhaps. And please correct my pronunciation, got it wrong, but is that Bali Tiege Burrow? Is that how you pronounce it? Burrow? So it's on the coast, and it's a beautiful beach. It's actually a spit, and it's the river. What is it? Oh, I can't remember what name the river is, but it comes out of Duncormac.
I wonder, would it be the Slaney River? The Slaney is the main river of Wexford.
It might be too far west of Wexford. I'm not sure. But down on the south coast, you've got this lovely, lovely geographical feature called Bali Tiege Burrow, and it's a spit because it's grown westwards, and it's almost covered the entire inland sea there to make a lagoon. But the river has cut it off, so it's like it sounds like it's going to be a lovely place to visit. So you've not been there? Lacken Bay Beach. I don't know if that rings a bell. Kilmore Quay.
Oh, Kilmore Quay. Kilmore Quay is 10 kilometres outside my apartment.
Oh, well, there you go. And if you were to walk west along the beach, that's apparently that long spit is called Bali Tiege Burrow. And
that's actually right. Another black mark against my name by Wexford County Council. But okay, so it's that close, right? I think I'm slightly embarrassed by not knowing that. I have only been here a little while. A year. I've been here a year.
No.
I have no excuse.
No, it's... You know what? I mean, come on, listeners. How many of you have, known an area that you've, intimately just within a single year? I mean, we can talk about what we've all been doing because of COVID and whatnot. I've now been living in this part of South Norfolk for, the oldest is now 8, coming up to 8, so almost 8 years. And there are parts around here that I still don't know very much about. So,
gotcha.
And I'm meant to be an ex-geography teacher who likes to walk around and do that kind of stuff. So, we are such a small speck of an entity within even our own locale that it's so easy to miss certain things and not know every single crumb of, unless your last episode, Alistair Hamill, who can name every column at the Giants Causeway. But that's, again, people should listen to that.
What? Is that possible? That's impressive.
He is pretty obsessed with the Giants Causeway. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, it is a beautiful area. It is a place I have been to twice, actually. And I say that like that's an achievement. But anyway, yes, well done me. But it is beautiful. I would struggle to name every column. I mean, there's the Giants and there's the Causeway. There we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to be seeing Alistair in a week's time, actually, at a geography conference, and I'm going to ask him to give me some names. We'll name one Sean. If he's not done the the 100,000th one yet, we'll name it Sean. Let's go for that. Seán Ferrick.
Yay!
And then he'll take me to it and say, that one you're sitting on, with your teddy bear's backside.
This is quite literally everything I've always wanted.
Oh, right. Come on, Kit. Get back on. Sorry, I'm having so much fun. This is just so much of a giggle. Right, back onto it. Dublin. So you spent most of your time in Dublin. I've visited Dublin once and did the whole classic Temple Bar thing as well, like that. We actually spent New Year's in Temple's Bar. My partner, my dear wife, bless her, had you would not believe this. You know the song Lament for Spilt Porter, which is like a classic Irish jig. My wife actually had porter spilt on her dress on New Year's Day. This beautiful red dress. But everybody was so lovely that the person who spilt it bought her a drink. And she never had to pay for a drink for the rest of that evening.
Okay, well, I'm going to say then, okay, that is a beautiful outcome from an oh no moment. Because I will say that we do have a reputation for being we're nice in a crisis, not always good in a crisis, but we're nice in a crisis, and I think that maybe fits that. But good in a crisis is we do tend to panic, but we'll panic by here, have another drink. Sure, you'll have 10 more. You'll be grand.
So. How does Dublin speak to you? I mean, you've just given a little insight there. but from like Mr. Ferrick, like, are you a Dubliner through and through? If you are, what does that mean? How would you describe being a Dubliner to somebody not in the know?
So that's actually a really interesting question because I was very, very small. I was maybe 4 when we moved to Dublin originally, and as I say, I was there till last year. I am no longer 4. Um, and I grew up nearly even amounts of time in 2 very different areas of Dublin because there are parts of Dublin that have better reputations than others for very different reasons. So initially, I would have grown up in an area that would have a very middle class, not so much affluent, but very, kind of, those guys are okay kind of area. And then when I was a teenager, I moved to an area that had a reputation for not being that. And it was funny, I didn't realize how much I had bought into the first viewpoint that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die moving to this new area. And I was like, oh, hang on. First of all reputations are nonsense. And, second of all, like, I mean, the slight difference is maybe people have a slight different accent. But Dublin is quite funny because there is, in such a relatively small land area, there's so many different versions of accents. There's the much stronger, you might call it an inner city accent, even though it's of course it's not relegated to one area. And then you would have the South Dublin accent, which is quite often ridiculed, it's unfortunate, but it has quite a strong, you would know it when you hear it, that kind of an accent. Um, and and yet it's probably one of the most built up cities in the country, with places like Limerick and Cork following, and of course Belfast as well, when you go up to the Northern Ireland. And yet there's still so much green, and there's actually so many beautiful places to visit in all parts of the county. If you go north, you have beautiful areas like Skerries. You've got, but then you're going into Louth after that. But if you come back down a little bit, even near the airport, which is an industrial area, you've got beautiful green areas around, and you're kind of going like, hang on, this is still Dublin. Am I still here? Like this is very different from where I was living a few minutes ago. And then you have beautiful. There's actually a very a famous park in Dublin, Marley Park, which became, certainly pre-COVID, and touch wood will be again, a great concert venue because you have these massive open areas. And it's so funny because I keep saying, when you think of Dublin, you think city, and you might think quite industrialized. You think James's Gate. You think Guinness.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Funny story. So my route to work, I used to live about 10 or 11k from work. So I would cycle because it wasn't that bad. It was much faster than getting a bus. And it used to take me past James's Gate every morning. And I swear I got drunk off the smell of the processing Guinness every morning. So I would be half cut getting to work every day. You're like, how shall I be? How is getting on, you well?
Oh, James. So, because I was just looking at the map here, and you've got there's the Guinness Storehouse there, and then you've got St James's Park, part of Phoenix Park, which is where Dublin Zoo is, which is huge.
It is, I believe, the largest park in, I want to say, the world, but I might settle for Europe. It is quite large.
It's big. Yeah. Yeah. No, that folks get on that. You'll know that. But it's really interesting you talk about the difference within. I mean, I've got a London background myself. I'm from Harlow in Essex, which is just outside of London, but my dad is Cockney from the East End of London, and there is so much difference between different areas and different boroughs of London, even there. So, like from Newham and Mile End and Bethnal Green in the east, and it's a completely different world. And for folks who know British culture very, very well, we had like comedies like Only Fools and Horses, which really did play on the whole, South London kind of stereotype in Peckham, like with the haves and the have-nots, like Boise and Marlene, compared to Derek and Rodney. So you kind of think of like London typically, but with Dublin, of course, us outsiders, we think, oh, it's the city of Dublin, everyone's going to be quite the same. But no, it's going to have as much vibrancy, as much diversity as any other city in the world, really. And I think people tend to forget that.
I think so as well. And then I think as well, because in Dublin, you don't have, of course, all the universities, but you have two massive universities in that you have UCD, where I went, which is why I said the name first, because you also have Trinity College, which is a fantastic college as well. Now, Trinity is right in the centre of Dublin City, and it's a massive tourist location as well. You also have places like Dublin City University, DIT, which means you have a huge amount of multiculturalism in Dublin, which I think sometimes tends to be forgotten even by ourselves walking around Dublin city centre. You might be like, oh yeah, hang on, we are a massively multicultural city. And yet even still, you still have this impression of, everyone looks the same, sounds the same, talks the same, drinks the same.
Right.
And some stereotypes are true, some aren't. That's okay. But it's quite fantastic. And it's funny in that I'm 34 now. So 2006, I legally started going out into town and kind of seeing the world. And very rapidly I kind of remember from about 2006 until about 2011, I remember seeing this massive change in who I saw in Dublin City. There seemed to be waves of just new faces, of new, I suppose, for want of a better word, new cultures mixing with your I call it your standard Irish. Obviously, I've just said there is no standard Irish, but let's just call it, for sake of standard Irish. And it was a bit fantastic. And yeah, because I want to be careful how I phrase this. In Ireland in the 90s, we didn't have an awful lot of multiculturalism. We didn't have a lot of variety when it came to who we saw from day to day. And then quite suddenly it was like, oh my God, the world has opened up to us. This is fantastic. Come in, my friends. Come in. Let's have a chat. Inevitably followed by let's have a drink.
I'm thinking because there was a sudden increase in membership to the European Union around about that time. I think I was just double checking my facts. I think like Poland became a member of the European Union in 2004. And I remember that being quite big news. And I think Romania followed a few years later. So those dates seem to match up quite a fair bit with the kind of like relative rapid expansion east of the European Union. Something I still identify as European, 100%.
Absolutely.
That will never ever be taken away from me. Okay, soapbox away before I get on it. So and I just feel that one thing that the Republic of Ireland is going to continue to benefit from is going to be kind of that freedom of movement and that cultural melting pot. And one thing that when I love following you on Twitter and listening to you talk and things like that is how whenever you talk and you create content, you do talk and take pride in multiculturalism and plurality and diversity, and that's something that has definitely attracted me to you as a character, as someone who is like, you're a massive trans ally, and I can only thank you for that, so much.
Thank you so much. No, I just want to say it takes no effort to be an ally. It really, really doesn't. And if there's anything I can do ever to help, I want to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That's to me, I know it just seems simple. Like, just do the right thing and everyone don't be bad.
Yeah. And it's bringing it to Star Trek. It's IDIC, isn't it? Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And so do you feel, therefore, to circle this loop then, does Dublin feel like it can embrace that? Is it on the verge of kind of like this IDIC feel to it? I mean, I know there's always going to be tensions, there's always going to be clashes, there's always going to be conflicts, but I feel that Ireland and Dublin is kind of maybe further ahead because they're still in the European Union and they're still embracing this multiculturalism. But what do you feel about that?
I think yes, I have a lot of optimism for what Dublin and Ireland in general have done in terms of opening, I say opening borders, but I suppose, yes, I do mean opening borders. But also, there's been a lot of just openness in how difference has been accepted. Historically, we wouldn't have a great reputation for being accepting of differences for various reasons. But certainly over the last 30 years in particular, there has been this massive change in Ireland. I very happily identify as a member of the Alphabet Mafia, as I like to call it, the LGBTQIA plus community, and I have never felt uncomfortable walking down the road holding a partner's hand. Now, that's not to say that things don't happen, or that there isn't, there isn't discrimination, there isn't negative reactions out there. There will always be. Would that there wasn't, but there will always be. But I felt comfortable walking through Dublin city centre, being my authentic self. But I respect at the same time that I am a cisgender white male. So my experience will be different from other experience, and I do respect that as well. So that's where you look to the wonderful embracing that has been done by the Irish community, for particularly, and not to exclude the older generation, but of course it's the younger generation that gets change happening. We were the first country in the world to legalize gay marriage via referendum,
yes,
which is amazing, and something that I want to, shout from the rooftops as well. Thankfully, we have a very progressive government when it comes to trans rights in Ireland, which I'm delighted about. Now, I believe it takes about 9 years and your firstborn soul to get an appointment, but I think that's because, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of resources here when it comes to particularly trans healthcare. It's not to say that the people who are engaged in trans healthcare aren't doing a really, really good job. It's just, unfortunately, I think there could be an awful lot more.
Yeah. This is very much the same here. I mean, there's a lot being held back over on this side of the Irish Sea, but after folks, I mean, this is the first time I'm saying it on the podcast. I guess I've said it publicly otherwise, but after about 800 days, I finally had my first gender identity consultation. Yay! Which is amazing.
So happy.
It's incredible feeling, really. And and you're right. I mean, I've got all this kind of stuff gives you privilege checks. It's amazing how, identifying, realizing my identity as a trans person, was a privilege check in itself, because, I'm not a trans person of color. I am someone who has got resources. I am quite financially, secure and stable. I have a loving family. And I've got so much privilege in that respect. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are, quite really suffering and finding things a lot challenging, and do not find the process of, say, for example, a gender identity clinic or consultation very pleasant. The questions were very personal, shall we say. And for me, who's got the privilege to take that, could be very intrusive to someone else. So maybe even traumatizing. So, folks, we won't go into too much detail on this, but we are recording this on Trans Day of Visibility. So, I think we were worth, it was our prerogative to spend, 5 or so minutes. But I'm going to come back to you though, Seán, because you mentioned about being part of the wonderful LGBTQ alphabet soup, and you have been invited. You're not going to keep this quiet. You have been invited to be, was it the official spokesman of gays in space at Star Trek Las Vegas? Is that right? Or correct me.
So I am a guest of. An official guest of. So
right.
I am incredibly fortunate.
I'm putting you on a pedestal.
And I thank you. Oh, don't worry. I'm sitting comfortably on this pedestal. Somebody bring me grapes. No, thank you so much. I'm incredibly fortunate. The group Gays in Space, spelled Gays in Space. They reached out to me, and they invited me to be a part of their attendance at Star Trek Las Vegas in 2022. I am shocked and so surprised and so grateful, and to the point where I'm just going to go around just shaking everyone's hand. So everyone who is going to attend Star Trek Las Vegas, please prepare for a handshake from me, consensually, of course.
Yes.
But yes, I'll bring the hand sanitizer with me. And it all literally it happens so quickly. That's why I'm actually kind of a little bit shell shocked by it. But yes, I specifically, I must mention the wonderful Dan Deavy, who he reached out to me and he got in touch and has just been a fantastic point of contact. And yeah, I am now going to be in Las Vegas, and which is amazing. The last thing I saw in Las Vegas was Army of the Dead, so it's going to be, I presume, quite different.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm so envious. So as we were talking before we started recording, so I have been to Las Vegas, not for a Star Trek convention. I haven't been to any. Would you believe I haven't been to any Star Trek convention yet, despite my avid devotion to the franchise and everything. But I know that. I know you're gonna have an amazing time, and I will make it out there one day. And it's just going to be so fantastic. And hopefully you'll get to do some other sightseeing things as well. So, I don't know, maybe go visit the Grand Canyon or something on a helicopter ride. And I'm going to keep that story to myself.
That's great. If I do go, I promise the first selfie will be sent directly to yourself. And I'm going to Photoshop you into the selfie, just so you know. Yeah. So you will, yeah. But if I can, I will, because, I mean, how often am I going to get out to anywhere like that? And there's just so much to do and to see. So yes, if I can, most certainly I will. If I'm not too busy shaking everybody's hand.
Not to be shaking them down. Well, and you're going to have such a blast. You know, it's going to be amazing. Hi folks, a chance for you to recharge your brew, but also a polite prod to remind you that it's so easy to support this podcast. Simply liking, sharing, rating and reviewing means that it will get on more people's radar. Also, there are a few links down in the description which may be of mutual benefit. Please do check them out. Right, we're going to bring some geography into, because we will never get through this chat without talking about Star Trek, because we both love it. So I'm going to try and bring some geography into it, right? Now, okay, so this is going to be it's going to be a very, very strange way of doing what we call Jog On, which is random topics that you need to talk about, but I'm going to slightly tweak it, right? And that is this way. So get this, everybody. If you think, if you've listened to me and Sean so far, brilliant, well done, fantastic. You're going to be rewarded with the geography now, right? Believe it or not, on Star Trek's official wiki, which is Memory Alpha, there are 119 geography-related articles. 119. So if you go to category geography, 119. And believe it or not, when you click on, there's a special link that says unwritten articles. So everything in that category, which could be geography, that's not yet been written, 299 unwritten articles, Sean, of geographical articles.
Okay, you need to get writing.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll be okay writing the entries for epicenter, North Polar Seas, and maybe refinery. I might need a little bit of help on Ultra of Truth, the Q Continuum Galaxy, and Nudist Colony. So,
I'll give it a bash.
But folks, yes, there is an article waiting to be written on the Star Trek wiki under geography for Nudist Colony. I'll let you decide where that's come from. I'm trying to think what the link is.
I mean, I would assume it has to be Riser.
Oh, it must. Well, that was my first thought.
Yeah,
because of course the page doesn't exist. So when I click on it, it just says, obviously not yet written. So,
or is it where? And again, just pulling just directly from the article here, is it where all Ferengi females are sent to bathe?
Because wearing clothing is it's not illegal, is it? It's just like morally apprehensible, isn't it?
I think that's it. Yeah, depending on how Grand Nagus Rom got on with his changes. I think, yeah. So it could be one or the other. I'm getting a very Risian feel.
I think it's Riser. Yeah, basically it's a pleasure planet. Everybody, basically, it's a long story short. So what I've done, Sean, is that now geography teachers, any teachers listening will recognise this kind of thing. Is we have a spinning wheel of names. So if you want to pick a kid out randomly to answer a question or do something, we can put their names into this spinning wheel, right? And it will generate their names, right? So what I've done, I've put all 119 geography articles into this wheel, and we're going to spin it. Okay, there's sort of a sound effect there, and it's going to come up with the Northern Foothills, right? So we need to. The Northern Foothills. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the Northern Foothills page on this wiki and find out what it is, and we're going to have a quick chat about it. So,
right,
folks,
okay, cool.
this is proof that... So, okay, here we go. The Northern Foothills were a group of small hills located in the north of the Cygnai expanse on a desert planet known as the Tothon Homeworld. So, this is from Ent Desert Crossing.
Okay, right.
Enterprise.
So Desert Crossing. So what do I remember? I remember that episode starred Clancy Brown.
Yes.
Because he has got just the greatest voice. With all respect to all Lex Luthors out there, he is my Lex Luthor.
Okay.
I remember that because I think that one introduced the camo uniform. Now, as anyone who's been near my Twitter knows, I have like a diagnosed issue when it comes to the uniforms in Star Trek. I will have them all.
Yes, you do.
I will.
And CBS know this, Sean. They're onto you.
Like, over the last couple of days, they've been releasing more trailers for Strange New Worlds, and in every trailer, there's a new uniform. It's fine. I'm over it.
So Desert
but I
Crossing,
do not
camo
have the
uniform.
camo.
Oh no, you got to get that because that's quite close. Yeah, so I'm just thinking of Captain Archer and Trip, being completely, burnt into those uniforms. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a type of cactus which grew in the northern foothills of the region of the planet was used as the primary ingredient for a wine called Yalisat. So, folks, now, of course, where's the real geographical? That is actually true, isn't it? Because we do use natural things such as that to make cocktails, to make drinks, to make, thinking of, in the Amazon rainforest, use pigments and things like that. So I love how they're using the real life kind of geography in this kind of sense.
So I have a question because I do not know the answer to this.
Go on, then.
Do we know what is the real or the Earth equivalent of these northern foothills? Where was this filmed? Because it does look different from the usual, backlot of Paramount.
That is a fantastic question. So was it filmed on location somewhere? So that is great. So usually, everybody, on the one thing that's great about these fan wikis is that they do usually have background information, and they actually tell you that they. Oh, here we go. So the desert exterior scenes of the Torothan planet were filmed at the Imperial Dunes in southeastern California, near the borders with Arizona and the Mexican state of Baja California.
I like that. So, because you can tell sometimes when it's being filmed on location and when it's being very clearly filmed with paper mache.
Right.
And there's a whole myriad of reasons for that, but yes, I've always thought you can always tell. It's like, I can see scope in this, and there was definitely like they were allowed to pan with the camera as opposed to fixedly only getting Scott Bakula standing on this one square of sand.
Nice. Right, so the next one I've got, so this is really testing is the Janitsa Mountains, or the Janitsa Mountains. Now, does that ring a bell, or let me just have a look at that one. Where would they have been? So everybody, I'm going to go down now. So this makes for great podcasting, isn't it? A kit like searching for it and clicking on things. This is where you have the elevator music, really, isn't it? Oh, they're on Bajor. Okay.
Okay,
The Janitsa Mountains are a mountain range on Bajor that until the early 2370s had only ever been surveyed from orbit. Actually, it's worth reading on here because it gives people to think about wildernesses here on Earth. So, sounded like we're not on Earth. So in 2371, a science team was sent up the mountains for a 6-month agrobiology expedition. Keiko O'Brien was the chief botanist on this expedition. There we are.
I know. I think. Is this the location of the fire caves?
Is it the location of the fire caves? Does it? I don't. You know what? That's a good question. It doesn't mention the fire caves on this.
Okay.
But it's obviously DS9. The DS9 episode Fascination.
Oh yes, Fascination, which is which I remember for being Majel Barrett's second, I think, appearance on DS9, and everyone got slightly amorous when she arrived.
Oh, is that the one where she was having some kind of? She was projecting.
Exactly.
And making because being Beta Z and that she was feeling pretty amorous, and that was being projected onto everybody around it. Yeah, okay, that was quite a fun episode.
It really was. It was a lot of fun. Now I have to say, no, I don't remember that. But because what I do remember about that is how they always had to come up with these reasons to get Keiko, or to make sure Miles was on his own for about half the season. Because of course they would only have Rosalind Chow for maybe 1 or 2 episodes a season, and then she's gone off on another 6 months. And I remember catching myself going like, so Miles is working every hour of the day because the station always keeps breaking. Keiko is doing a 6-month trip, on Bajor. Who's looking after Molly?
Right. Seriously.
Is Molly all right? Like,
I can't remember how old Molly was during that episode. Was she a little toddler? Was she talking by that point? Was she a little baby?
She would have been, because she was born. It's possibly sad that I know this, but she was born in season 5 of The Next Gen. She was born in Disaster.
That's right. Yeah.
So Fascination.
Delivered by Worf.
Delivered by Worf.
Spoiler.
There's such a great gag about that as well later on in DS9. Keiko's going to have a baby now. I think she was only 3. She was only a little baby in that one.
There you go. Right.
Why do I know that?
This is great. So mixing geography and Star Trek, brilliant. So we've got some mountains on Bajor. We've got a desert planet, which was filmed in some California. So let's go North Pole.
All right. Well, North. Well, that's actually, I'll tell you what, that is nice, Jared, because you could get any number of planets for that one. For example, the time Rhaegar Danar hid his ship in the North Pole.
Right.
The Hunted, season 3 of The Next Generation. Yes, and he managed to escape the censors of the vastly superior Galaxy-class ship by just hiding behind the pole, which does seem like a massive design flaw.
Seriously. It's got here, North Pole of Mars is mentioned. It says that the North Pole of Mars was covered by an ice cap, and by 2154 it was the frequent target of comets as part of a terraforming effort, and that was in Terra Prime.
Yes, real end of Enterprise. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, everybody. That's the canonical end, because we never actually saw the actual characters on screen after Terra Prime, because they were holograms.
Correct. So, yep, absolutely correct. Also, actually, keeping with the Enterprise theme, North Pole, I believe regeneration takes place up in the Arctic.
I think so. You're right. Yeah. So regeneration is when the some Borg from Star Trek First Contact got buried in somehow, and then they got revived a little bit later. Oh, it's all wibbly wobbly Tommy Wimey. There you go for the Doctor Who reference for you. So, okay, yeah, the North Pole. So of course, it's something that's quite actively studied quite a fair bit with geography. We've got a common debate in classrooms is should the Arctic have something similar to the Antarctic Treaty, for example. So the Antarctic Treaty, which is an agreement between all party states that says it's for scientific purposes, peaceful purposes, no military activities. All claims to Antarctica are both discounted and set aside. Should we have something similar for the Arctic? As the ice melts, especially, and all the resources become available, could be a source of future conflict.
I'm actually sorry to say that I didn't know there wasn't such an agreement. I suppose it makes sense now to think about it, but that is disappointing that there isn't.
I think it's going to be hard to put one together now with the scrap for resources, especially. Right. Okay, so this is really interesting. Another one I have no way of pronouncing. The Endwadu mountain range. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. So it's this random generator has picked up 2 mountain ranges now.
There's definitely a theme.
Endwadu mountain range. Okay, this was not very much information on this, but it's in Discovery, The War Without, The War Within, and it is a mountain range which was on the Veda system moon Delta 2. That's what it says. And
not gonna lie, don't remember that one.
But you know who would know this one? Folks, if you really love Star Trek lore and stuff like that, I can't remember it's Horgland or something like that. It's like Jorge Horgland.
Yes, oh my god, he is
would know this.
Incredible. Like, he puts my Easter eggs to shame.
Seriously. Yeah. So this guy, right, what he does, he's forensic. So if you think Sean and I are like complete sci-fi and Star Trek geeks, you've seen nothing on Jorg, right? Because he will get screenshots of an episode and he'll try his best to like digitally enhance them as much as he can, and so he can read what's on the screen, and then he'll make references to like lore and canon all the way back to other things. And then what he'll also do is that he'll get screenshots from 2 different episodes, which could be quite close to each other, or they could be series away from each other, and go, oh, you see that panel there? That panel that was used in this episode was used 60 years ago in this episode.
I have relied on some of his resources for. We've done videos on reused props, which sounds. I understand. I understand how boring that sounds, but it's actually really interesting when you see how creative you can get with particularly reused locations as well.
Yeah.
You know, how do you make the Vasquez Rocks look like you're on a completely different planet?
Vasquez Rocks, yeah. So how many times Vasquez Rocks, how many times has that location been used for Star Trek episodes? Obviously, because the most famous use was in the original series when Kirk fought the Gorn.
Yeah.
It was used in Picard because Raffi had her shack out in Vasquez Rocks. And it actually was in Vasquez Rocks because it came up Vasquez Rocks.
Yep.
So where else has Vasquez Rocks been used?
It's been used, I think, at least twice to be Vulcan. It was used in Star Trek 4,
right?
Where you have it's supposed to be this epic shot of a massive mountain range. Now that I've seen the size of Vasquez Rocks, that is really well done.
It's all about
trickery.
Perspective, yeah.
Well, you have Leonard Nimoy as obviously Spock standing on top of it, and then again in Star Trek 2009. You have Vasquez Rocks, which are shown as just part of the landscape. But of course, in Star Trek, they are enormous, as everything in Star Trek 2009 is.
I knew that we were going to be mentioning Vasquez Rocks at some point because it's a perfect example of a geographical location that's been used for filming. So if you don't know where Vasquez Rocks is, everybody, it's in the Los Angeles area of California. So I can't remember exactly. I think it's north of Los Angeles, I believe.
I think it's north, yeah.
But yeah, so it's up there in the Sierra Pelona kind of area. So yeah, worth a visit. Right, so the last one, so that's 4, I believe. So now we're on our 5th one. So spin the wheel one more time. Oh, no, this is going to be good. The Tenkaran Coast. So what is the Tenkaran Coast? So this is just amazing. This is brilliant. Star Trek and geography just all rolled into one.
I love it.
It was in the Delta Quadrant. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. The Tenkaran Coast was a scenic geographical feature on a planet in the Delta Quadrant. It was among the vistas displayed on the Pinea Synaptic Stimulator, and that was so this was to do with Captain Ransom. Captain Ransom was fond of spending time on the Tenkaran Coast to escape from his situation aboard the USS Equinox, which was while stranded in the Delta Quadrant. So this was it a cortical thing, which they it was like a holodeck for the brain, wasn't it, in a sense?
Yes, yeah, and he would escape into this vista. I remember now, it was this beautiful coast, crashing waves, with jutting out rocks, and Seven she turned up in his vista. It was, and to which he went, "This doesn't make any sense. This is only supposed to show vistas," and they never properly explained that either.
Yeah.
But it was this beautiful, sunny, idyllic. You can completely understand how you could so immediately calm yourself by just standing in this location, which was good when, I don't want to give any spoilers, but you would really want to be calm for some of the things that Ransom was facing.
Yes, and I think, if he had two, he was lucky, wasn't he? Because he had 2 choices of how to go out, shall we say, right? And that's as walking the spoiler line there. He could either face it head on, or he could escape in the way that he did. So,
I think what was it, if the knight was here, to say, "You have chosen wisely."
You've chosen wisely, most definitely. The saddest thing about that wiki entry, it doesn't say what real life location that was based on. So I'm gonna have to do a bit of digging up and see where that was. Well, that was loads of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was cool. And Sean, suggestion for the next trek, it's 10 locations, geographical locations that you may not. If you want me to help with that,
I love that. Because I love that because in all reality, obviously, it's kind of like doing a tourism guide for Star Trek. Obviously,
I like
Vasquez
it.
Rocks will have to feature on the list. There's no question.
100%.
But yeah, I think with now obviously it's up to Star Trek. You can do a list of 10. Now, if we do Game of Thrones, we can just do a whole list of Ireland.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely, 100%. Right, we're going to finish off now. One last thing we got to do, and that is to link you to our previous guests, Sean, and to link us to our future guests by doing We're All Geographers. It's easy, it's fine, it's all good. Right. So what it is that each guest comes up with a word that the following guest can. Well, what we say is linked to geography, but geography in the loosest sense. It's basically people's personal takes on it. So if it's a personal geography or a geographical term, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Now, last week, Alistair Hamill did just the simple word card, which was given to him by an ex-student of mine. She was just like looking at a desk. I can't think of a word. She just went stapler or card. So we went with card, right? But Alistair... And I think this is really, really perfect for you, Sean, being the kind of person that I believe, at least that you are. And Alistair has given you the word empathy. So I think that's a lovely word for you to talk about for 30 seconds, the word empathy. And so you've got 30 seconds, Sean, to talk about the word empathy. And if you want to put a geographical kind of slant to it, maybe talk about your life experience where you've lived, that's fine. Or you can just go whatever you like to say for empathy for 30 seconds. Entirely up to you.
Okay, wow. Empathy. I try to live my life with the idea of look at your life through the eyes and experience of others, if you can. I have moved from a city to a countryside, so that is already a completely different style of living that I've been used to doing. It's it's allowed me to embrace nature a little bit more because I'm so surrounded by nature more than I was. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh no, I failed you.
You have not failed at all, Sean. You have not failed at all. No, that's lovely. And yeah, so using your own experiences there, how that can bring about empathy and doing what we're doing right now, of course, having conversations. Yeah. That's a really great way of building empathy. And this is one of the things I've loved about this podcast. And I hope everybody listening has loved about the podcast as well. It's just having a chat and geeking out and having fun. It's a really great way of building connections and empathy. So you get to have your own back now, Sean. Now, actually, You're special because my next episode, everybody, if it all goes well, technical difficulties, all that kind of aside, and I get it out quick enough, I'm going to be recording it live on location. Well, not live, but on location at the Geographical Association Teachers Conference. So your word is going to be part of... I've got a plan for how I'm going to do all these words with the people there, right? But the guest I'll have after that one will have to do your word, the one that you come up with. So it could be anything. It could even be soundproofing for you. Just look at it. It could be anything you like, any word whatsoever that you'd like next guest to talk about, linked to geography, however they wish to take it.
Recharge.
Nice. Recharge. Something that, just recovering from COVID, I really do need to do myself.
Sorry, I hope you're okay.
I'm fine. Yeah, this is a perfect way to kind of refire up the nacelles. Having this chat. See what I did there. So yeah, recharge. We'll have that one. That's brilliant. Okay, Sean, to finish off then, time for some shout outs. I know you've already given a couple of shout outs, but if you've got anyone you'd like to say hi to, TrekCulture family or anyone else at all?
Yes, very much. Thank you to everyone at TrekCulture for helping me do what I do. Particularly, I want to say thank you to Chris Thompson, who doesn't sleep. He is our editor. He is one of a fantastic team of editors. But I know as we are recording this, he is hard at work on the ups and downs for this week. I thank you everyone. Seriously, thank you everyone who ever interacts or ever says hello, because you can be a voice shouting out into a void until somebody responds to you. So
seriously,
it's massively appreciated, and thanks to everyone who tolerates me. Because
Sean, don't give yourself enough credit. Well, as I say, it's no way is it tolerating you. This has been an absolute pleasure. But and I want people to get in contact with you. So you definitely have a Twitter account. So you are Seán Ferrick at Seán Ferrick.
I am. Yes, Seán Ferrick, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm now plugging my TikTok because I now do that. I've become one of the younger crowd. Yes.
I know, it's people. It's coming for me, Seán. It's coming for me. I'm not yet on TikTok. People are saying
there's no escape. I don't think so. I think, just kind of have to just go with it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I might have to hold my nose and take the plunge one day. And you also have a website as well, which is because it mentions your book. We didn't get the time to talk about your books, so people have a look at that. So you've got a website, so seanferrick.wordpress.com.
Yes, seanferrick.wordpress.com. It has links to pretty much everything I do.
That you do,
on
podcasts, your books, and everything, and a very dapper picture of you wearing a Star Trek First Contact dress uniform, or no, Insurrection dress uniform, and Nemesis.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Eugene Chefor.
Emphasis on the chi and the for.
Okay,
and I will have my collar size is exactly the same as it was in the academy.
Love it. See, Insurrection, it's underrated. And I'm not even going to say the one with Beverly Crusher. No. Right. Well, there we go. Well, thank you so much, Seán. And one thing is that I remember one of the first things I said to you ever on social media, when I got a really lovely response from you. I think it was in response to maybe the short trek with the one with Zora dancing, and I said I'd love we were talking about dancing for some reason, and now we've got this commitment that when we meet up finally, whenever it will be, we're going to have a dance.
Yes, absolutely. Dance of your choice. I would like to recommend a tango.
Ooh.
But hey, dance of your choice entirely. Or we could do that kind of Ferengi dance that Nog does. I have no idea what that's going to sound like in the podcast, but I hope that comes out okay.
I'm not even going to describe it to everybody. We'll just leave it to your imagination. Seán Ferrick, this has been an absolute delight. It's so good to connect with you, and I really hope we get to do this again in the future, hopefully in person.
Yes, oh please God, yes.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you had fun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so more stories and experiences can drop into your favourite podcast app. If you fancy being a guest or have any feedback, follow us on Twitter at CoffeeJogPod and send us a DM. Or you could email coffeeandjog@geogramblings.com. Until next time, keep geogging.